Hello again. Good afternoon again. We just left with basic assumptions and research. Now let's look at formulating research problems. This lecture is very interesting as well as very important because here we learn how to come up with a research problem. In other words, we study how to come up with a research basic proposal, a research topic, a research objective. Please see this video because we have a few components like the importance of formulating research problem, then the sources of research problem, then 7-step model to formulate research problems, and basic slide on how to set objective, the main objective as well as the sub objectives. So let us begin the session on formulating research problem. So basically, this is going to be the one that you were assigned with to formulate a topic. So in other words, the assignment that you did is basically formulation of research problem. So I'm again saying, please do not get confused with problem statement and research problem. Problem statement is one of the sub part of the whole research process, or it also can be a sub part of the research problem. Problem statement is one of the sub part of research problem. We just saw what is research assumption. Now let us exactly look at what is research problem. Starting from defining the research topic to setting objectives and research hypothesis, though this carries, like I said in the earlier slides, around only 10 to 15 percentage of whole research process, but it's one of the most important, one of the pivotal steps that we need to undertake in order to have very quality research. And the box that we have here is what is all about research problem. The importance of research problem is like it is the first and foremost step in coming up with the research. So for example, let us see again the example of lichens. If you want to do your thesis on lichens, then assume having some kind of assumption on lichens and reflecting the problem statement of lichens, setting objectives, having research questions, having a brief background on lichen is basically a research problem on your thesis, and that's going to guide whole research process that you're going to follow. So it's one of the most important component of research process, and is also the first step in research process. The stronger the problem, the stronger the research problem you have, the stronger the research process it becomes, and the better the quality of research report comes out. So another analogy can be research problem helps us to identify our destination, which we want to undertake. As we know, without a destination, it's impossible to find different ways, and it's again impossible to find the shortest way or any kind of ways. So it's like, if you do not have research problems, it's very blank for us to which way to go, what to do, and what kind of results are we expecting. So a research problem, a clear research problem at our hand, guides us our destination, our way forward, and basically it's kind of like a clear roadmap in our research process. So another analogy can be the foundation of a building. So the stronger the foundation of the building, the stronger the building will be in future. So the stronger the research problem that we have, the stronger the research report and research whole process will be in the future. So let us look at more on the importance of research problem. So The clearer research problem that we set, the clearer uh, uh, methods or the clearer steps uh, that follow after designing a problem will come. What I mean is that the clearer research problem that we set, we'll be able to visualize our study design very clearly, our sampling strategy very clearly, what kind of research instrument that we are going to use very clearly again, and what kind of analysis that we are going to use very clearly. Let's again study our lichen in depth. So the research problem, let's start with the research title. Let's say the research title is to study lichen in Huangdi Foreign District. So uh, if our research problem, the whole research problem comes up with the statement that we want to study we want to study the diversity of uh, we want to study the diversity and distribution of lichens through the altitudinal gradients in Wangdipuram district. Their diversity, distribution, and altitudinal gradient lets us know that we have to use specific kind of study design. We have to use specific kind of sampling strategy. We have to use an instruments like transect. We have to use instruments like survey. Then we're basically looking at the correlation of the data along the altitudinal gradients, how distributed they are, what are the patterns of distribution. So we are basically looking at the association between the parameters of lichens. So from there we can visualize that by distribution we are looking at uh, a correlation, variation aspects, which we need to have analysis like correlation, then variation analysis like uh, uh, ANOVA, Madbidnik, Christmas Wallis, and all, and uh, descriptive study needs to be conducted for the diversity. So a very clear problems, research problem like diversity and distribution of lichens in the altitudinal gradients in Wangdipuram district lets us know that we have to use a specific kind of design. You have to use a specific kind of data collection method, data collection instrument, sampling design, and data analysis. So it's very important for us to have very clear problem statement stated, research problem stated, and let us clarify this with more examples. Let us say that our broad title is to work on human wildlife conflict, and the specific substated title is on to study relation between development and human wildlife conflict. And we know that developmental activities have caused havoc to human wildlife conflict, have increased human wildlife conflict by many folds now. And I was saying the kind of research problem that we design helps us to know what kind of instrument that we'll be using, what kind of research method that we'll be using, and at last we would visualize the whole method. So the relation between development and human wildlife conflict is, again, though it's a subset of the broad topic human wildlife conflict, but it's again not very clear research problem. So a research problem can be, we want to study the types of development and its effect on human wildlife conflict. So here we are looking at the types. So basically we are looking at the different types of developmental activities going on, and this is predominantly descriptive and qualitative in nature. So the kind of method that we will be using is qualitative method. Let us say that we want to study, or our research problem is to study the extent of effect of development on human wildlife conflict. So whether small developmental activity is causing huge impact on human wildlife conflict, or whether higher effect of developmental activities are causing huge or detrimental effect on human wildlife conflict. So we are looking at the extent. That means we're looking at the quantitative data. So here we'll be using quantitative methods. If you are to look at the extent of use in relation to different developmental areas to human wildlife conflict, basically we are going to look at the developmental activities happening at different places, different areas, and see whether they have got any difference or whether they have got any association with regard to human wildlife conflict. Here you're basically looking at the association part or the correlational part, and again here we are going to use quantitative methodology. If you have to look at effectiveness of different developmental policies on human wildlife conflict, again we are again looking at the correlational aspect. Again, that's quantitative. So it's very important for us to clarify our research problem at the beginning of the research process, because the more clear the research problem is, the clearer the methods and the instruments and the data analysis things comes that will follow. Again, if you're getting confused at this stage, please do not get confused. Confusion is the first step towards clarity. So I really hope that you'll get clarified as we go on now. There are many sources of research problems, and you can get research topics from many different sources, but throughout the literatures, by looking at literatures and by looking at different sources, I found that there are 4 different sources to research problem. They are people or population, problems, programs, and phenomenon. Research problems will arise from the combination of any of the 2 P's, or combination of any of the P's more than 2. So let's say we want to study the population of something else with regard to some issues or some problem, or let's say we want to study we want to study the effectiveness of a drug. Let's say a drug is a program, so let's say an effectiveness of drug on conifer forest. Population is conifer forest, which is being infested by bark beetle. Let's say that we want to study some kind of like natural phenomena in that population having that issue. So basically, when we are choosing any research problem, all research problems revolve around the 4 P's. We just need to know how to play the 4 P's. And again, looking at the 4 P's, every research has 2 aspects. The first one is the first P, that's the study population, people. And the second aspect is the combination of 3 P's, problems, programs, and phenomena. The first P, people or population, is basically representing the study population. So that's where we study, and that's the source of our data, or they can tell us about more things about other P's. So the other aspect is the combination of 3 P's. These are subject area. So basically, any research problem will have 2 aspects. One is the population aspect and what is the subject area. Let's say again, let's get back to the lichen. So lichen, let's say the diversity and distribution of lichen in Wangdi district. So right now the city population is lichen, and the subject area is distribution and diversity and distribution in Wangdi. So the problem is that the subject area, which is composed of problem, program, or phenomena, the problem is that the issue related to lichen is that it's not being studied in Wangdi district. We have got situation there, we have got lots of association, we have got population composition there, which is not being studied. So we want to study the population through this subject area. Or let's say we want to study the lichen population. That's steady population is lichen in conifer forest and broadleaf forest in Wangdi district. That can also be another kind of study that is related to the phenomenon. Or we can say that we want to study lichen diversity and distribution in disturbed and undisturbed forest in Wangdi district. So again, that can be again another way to look at. So what I really mean to say about the source of research problem is that there are 4 sources of research problem. These 4 sources of research problem: population, problem, program, and phenomena, in association or combination with each other, can actually lead us to give the research problem. We just need to know how to play. And when we are to play this 4 P's, we have to segregate the first P, that's population of people, as one aspect, and the rest of the 3 P's as one aspect. And when we have got these 2 aspects ready, then we can have our research problem ready. There are few things to consider before coming up with any research problem. So let's say the research problem that we have right now is lichen diversity and distribution in disturbed and undisturbed habitat in Wangdi district. So to have that as our problem statement, or like a research problem, you have to consider your interest. So research is not a very easy thing. It takes lots of time. You need lots of hard work. So in this case, if you do not have great interest to do the study on lichens, especially in the forest in Wangdi, then it's going to cost you a lot, because we need lots of motivation, we need lots of energy and time. So if you do not have interest from the starting to the end to do on the lichen, it will be very hard for you to sustain your motivation, and you may want to give up from the middle if nothing works out well. So interest is the main thing that you need. We need to even consider the magnitude. The topic that you have chosen, the lichens diversity and distribution, that has to be manageable. Do not look at, for example, unmanageable research problems like distribution of lichens in 6 forest types in Bhutan, or like the distribution of lichens in like 7 districts in Bhutan within the time span of 3 months, because the data collection time that you'll be given with by the college is around 3 months. So it's really going to be hard for you to collect the data in 3 months for 7 districts, and it will be quite exhausting for you. So magnitude is very important to be it's very important to consider. Look at the magnitude of your research. Try to keep it very specific and clear. Try to keep it very manageable. Measurement of concepts. So again, let's get back to the lichens distribution and diversity. So make sure that you really know how to look at the diversity of any species. So you really know how to look at how to measure the diversity of any species, specifically lichens. Make sure that you know how to look at the distribution pattern of any species, especially again the lichens. Make sure again you know how to correlate between different elevational gradients if you are looking at elevation gradients, or if you're looking at uh, the the difference in diversity and distribution between disturbed and undisturbed habitats. So make sure that you know how to measure the uh, the diversity and distribution in disturbed and undisturbed habitat. Do not uh, write or do not use some things like you do not know how to measure right now. You don't know how to measure right now, but you are going to do some literature review to know that it's a wrong way to point it out that way, because you are certainly going to work it out how to measure the diversity and distribution of lichens. So in the research problem, it's very important for you to write that you are going to measure the diversity of lichen in that specific manner, in that specific area with that specific technique. It's very important for you to clearly mention whatever you're going to measure from the starting. So measurement of concept is very important. Do not write you cannot measure anything else, because if research problem is being read by in the ethical committee or the funding agencies, it's going to be quite hard for you to get through the committee or get the funding. So please do not write you do not know how to measure. Again, you really need a very good level of expertise here, because a research problem without any expertise, it will be quite hard. So expertise is something else that you may not be having at the start of your thesis, but thesis or start of your research. That's why you have got your friends, your teachers. That's where you have your supervisor to supervise you. And please work hard. You need to have very good level of expertise in order to have a very good research problem. So you can develop the expertise by yourself, provided that you have interest in this one. So again, relevance. So studying lichens, for example, should be relevant to your course as well as to your profession, and it should be again relevant to the scientific community that you are going to add information to. You're going to that you are going to fill the gaps to, and remember that if the lichen studies are already being carried out elsewhere by people around, and for example, if it is being carried out in the same specific locality that you're going to study, then it's not going to add any kind of new information. So in that case, it's not relevant for that study area. And though it's relevant for your professionals, though it's relevant for your profession. So look at the relevancy of your profession as well as that study area, and how would you like to fill the gaps with your research. Uh, Again, if you are looking at your research mostly by reviewing the secondary data available online, available in some of the offices, make sure that your secondary data are ready so that your research problem is very clear from the start. So make sure that it's ready. And there are a few ethical things that you need to consider before doing the research problem. Specifically, it happens when we do qualitative research, when we are doing surveys, specifically asking our respondents. When we go to local area, and when we try to interview some of the local people, they may be expecting some gifts, which gifts from you, and you also may be giving them some gifts or something else which is not ethical. So try to check that whether you want to do that or not. And if you are doing experimental studies, um, if you are doing experimental study, and if you are doing some kind of interventional measures, try to check that um, all your experimental groups and control groups, they are getting proper interventions on time. um, and again, yes, some people will not share sensitive and private information. So uh, if your research really has to dig out some sensitive and private information, then if those respondents are not willing to give this kind of information, then you need to look at how to get those information by by digging a lot, by forcing them to respond is not ethical. So you want to look at how to resolve that when you're framing your research problem. And again, some people may want to be your guinea pig. For example, if you want to do some international studies in one of the geos, and where you want to give some give some give some equipment for them to try, and you want to study whether that equipments are quite beneficial for them or not. So in that case, some people may want to be your guinea pig, and yes, again, that's quite unethical for you. If you're choosing some people who really want to be guinea pig, but if it's not in your um, sample list. So try to check on this kind of ethical issues, how you want to resolve those ones. So these are few of the considerations that you need to keep in your mind before selecting any research problems. Yes, now let's get back to how exactly we can formulate research problem, how we can come up with a very concrete research problem. So this is a very broad method to come up with a research problem. This is exactly what we did with our research topic assignment. There are 10 steps to formulate research problem, starting from brainstorming the idea, subsetting the idea, uh, then choosing the topic, focus on the topic, keyword listing, and all. But uh, in these steps, these are very comprehensive ones. Um, few things like focusing on a few things like keyword listing, browsing general background information like problem statement, concept notes are not exactly reflected in any of the research problem literatures. I had to give you because I wanted to make sure that uh, you have the right expertise before you start your research problem. But we are going to now look at exactly only those steps that we need to formulate a research problem. So out of that 10 steps, we are going to omit around 4 steps out and keep around 6 or 7 steps and make it a 7-step model. Before that, in on in step 9, we have uh, step on setting objective. So setting objective is very important. I want to spend a few minutes on how to set objectives. Uh, Objectives are basically the goals that we want to set for our research to attain, and these are one of the most read part of any thesis, any proposal, any research. So it's very important for you to write it in a very clear manner with a very good wording. um, when you are writing a proposal and when you give it to a supervisor, your supervisor will not get time to read whole 7 to 8 pages of proposal. He will not have any time, but he will be spending only 30 minutes. And specifically, he will be looking at the topic, he will be looking at the objectives, and he will be looking at the methods. So objective is the most visited part of the research by most of the people or most of the committee members. So writing objectives is very important. Again, writing objective very clearly is very important. So I'm going to teach you how to come up with objectives. So please write objectives in 2 headings every time. One is going to be the main objective or the overall objective, and the second one is going to be the sub objective. The main objective is the overall statement of thrust, meaning, for example, my overall, let's get back to again lichens. My overall objective is to find the diversity and study the diversity and distribution of lichens in Wangdi Podrong district. So this is my overall objective, and this is the overall thrust of the study. Towards the end of the study, I really want to get diversity and distribution pattern of the lichens in this district. And if you can mention the main association or main relationship that you want to draw from the study, then you can also mention in the overall or the main objective. And then we have got sub objective. Sub objective is the what are the specific or the smaller subsets of the main objectives that you want to look at. So for example, again, let's get back to again lichens, diversity and distribution. So first objective is lichen diversity in Wangdi Podrong district. So that's is first one. Second one is distribution of lichens in Wangdi Podrong. Again, third one, if I want to look at the distribution, exactly what distribution do I want to look at? The distribution along the altitudinal gradient. Do I want to look at the distribution pattern in different forest types? Do I want to look at the distribution pattern in settled and unsettled areas? So exactly what we need to look at in this sub objective. So I can write first one is to assess the diversity of lichens in Wangdi Podrong district. Second one is to study the distribution pattern of lichens along the altitudinal gradient in Wangdi Podrong district. Third one is to study the distribution pattern of lichens in disturbed and undisturbed habitat in Wangdi Podrong forest. So that can be my sub objectives. So please remember when we are writing sub objectives. So sub objective is the main the important objectives that we really look at. So when we are writing sub objectives, please write one context per objective. So let's say you do not want to mix diversity and distribution of lichens in Wangdi Podrong. So that's not a good sub objective. So I just want to write a diversity of lichens in Wangdi Podrong. That's one context or one aspect objective. Distribution of lichens and altitudinal gradient in Wangdi Podrong district. So that's another distribution of lichens in disturbed and undisturbed habitat. So that's another sub objective having just one aspect. So try to keep this in mind. We want to have only one aspect of the study. Then again, all the objectives should start with an action-oriented words or verb. Do not just start with understand the diversity and distribution of lichens in Wangdi Podrong district is the main objective, and sub objective is assume the diversity of lichens in that area, or directly starting with the diversity of lichens in Wangdi Podrong district. That's a wrong way to write. The best way to write is to start with the action verb to assess the diversity of lichens in Onglipuram district. So the word assess is there to measure the uh, distribution of uh, lichens in altitudinal gradients in Onglipuram district, to explore the distributional pattern in disturbed and undisturbed habitat. So like that. So if you can again if you can mix these words again, that would be better. So not to write to assess that the diversity of lichens. Again, the second objective starts with to assess the distribution. Again, the third objective starts with to assess the distributional pattern. So that's not going to be good. Firstly, to study dash 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 dash, to assess dash 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 dash, and to explore dash dash, or to measure dash dash dash. So again, do not keep objective more than 4. At the max 3 is best, but if you cannot do with 3, then please go maximum till 4. I recommend only to keep till 3, 1 main objective and 3 sub objectives. So yes, again, let's get back to formulating research problems. So like I said, we're going to delete around 3 to 4 topics, and just keep around 7 topics. So we're going to delete focus on your topic. We are going to delete keyword listing. We are going to delete browsing general information. We are going to delete a problem statement or rational. So these are the things that you need to do or you need to do before formulating any research problem. So you need to exactly read something else in order to have an idea to do the research problem formulation. So aside from this, we are keeping the rest of the 7, and we are bringing up the 7-step model to formulate a research problem. So the first is to brainstorm the idea, or to identify the broad topic of the research that you want to carry out. The second one is to dissect the broad topic. For example, lichen can be the broad topic, and the dissection can be dissection of the topic of lichen can be diversity of lichen is 1, distribution pattern of lichen is 2, diversity and distribution pattern is 3, conservation rate to lichen is 4, then people's perception on the importance of lichens is 5. So like that, you need to dissect or make those make that into subsets of the overall topic. So after dissecting, then you are going to select from those. So let's say that I want to study diversity and distribution of lichens in Wangdipuram district. So I've selected that one. Then raise questions. So frame questions basically. So exactly, in order to look at the diversity and distribution of lichens in Wangdipuram district, what are the questions that I need to ask? So let's say, what is the diversity of lichens in Wangdipuram district is one question. What is the distribution pattern of lichens in Wangdipuram district is another question. Is there any difference in lichen distribution and diversity in altitudinal gradients in Wangdipuram district is another question. So this kind of questions can be raised, like again 4 to 5 research questions can be raised. Then we come up with objectives. Yes, in research questions and objectives are basically same, but in research questions we have got a question tag where you have to make it like a question, and objective is when we make that question answerable, and when we put some action verbs like to assess, to study, to determine, to measure, and when we make it measurable is what objective is all about. So set objectives around like 3 to 4 objectives, then make sure that these objectives are achievable, measurable, then these are time bound, basically following the SMART principle, and make sure that these objectives are something that interests you, something that is within your expertise, within your relevancy. Check out the considerations that we have to make when we are framing research problem. So check back that again, and at last, yes, again double check. So see that whether you have identified the broad topic properly, whether you have dissected the broad topic, whether you have selected it very well and all. So double check that one, and that's the 7-step model of how to come up with research problem. I've got few examples of how to come up with research problem. Let's say we are looking at the broad topic as alcoholism. So we are interested to work more on alcoholism, and to dissect alcoholism we want to look at we have few topics like profile of alcoholics as one dissected or a subset of alcoholism. Then we have got causes of alcoholism, the process of becoming an alcoholic. Like that, we have got a few, like 5 to 6. Then from there, we select the best one. The effect of alcoholism on family is the best topic that we can work on. Then we raise question: what impact has alcoholism on marital relations? How does it affect the various aspects of children's lives? What are the effects on families' finances? And here, through after raising questions, then we try to formulate our objective again. When we are formulating objective, we have two kinds of objective. One is main objective, and the other one is specific objectives. So frame those main and specific objectives. Then again, make sure that these objectives that we have framed are within the principles of SMART, within the considerations that we had to make when we are choosing the research problem, like interest, relevancy, expertise, and all. And at last, double check whether you have done it well. So this is how you choose a research problem when you deal with alcoholism. And this is on fertility and mortality. Identify, dissect, select, raise questions, formulate, then assess, make sure, then again double check. The last example is on, let's say you want to work on health, then again dissect. So at last we select community responsive in delivery of health services as our topic. Raise questions, formulate objective, again make sure, then again double check. That's it with how to formulate research problems. And please do not get confused with what is problem statement and what is research problem. Research problem is basically generating the topic and coming till objectives and making that objectives very clear. So that's the whole clear research problem that we have, and that's a problem, a chunk of problem that we want to start our research with. So I really hope that you got clear with this, how to set research problems. Yes, thank you so much.